What's up folks, it's CrushSG back with another mod showcase. And yeah, I know it's been a couple of weeks since my last upload. Things have been a little slow lately on the Cyberpunk front, and work has also picked up a fair bit for me too. That said, I do know that there may be a couple of cool mod launches and updates in the works. One of them is related to the RT+PT project, and the other as well, kinda related to the mod I'll be showcasing today, and that is Nova Traffic by TheCyanideX and TheManualEnhancer. Yup, anyone into modding Cyberpunk should recognize these names immediately. Two heavy hitters collaborating on one mod, what more can we ask for? Quick overview, Nova Traffic is sort of an early preview to one of the features that will be included in the Nova City mod that is currently in development by TheCyanideX. I don't have much info on Nova City itself other than it is going to be way more than just a lighting mod like NovaLut or PreemLut. From what I gather, based on the authors contributing to the project, it might be closer to an overhaul of sorts than anything. Exciting stuff. Anyway, I don't want to speculate too much. I'll definitely look into doing a showcase of it when it drops, of course. Soon, TM. Back on topic, Nova Traffic is a really cool traffic swap and replacement mod that does essentially two things. First, it swaps out some of the vanilla vehicles with other less common ones like buses and trucks to give traffic in Night City more variance. The swaps occur outside of the player's view and at random, so it feels pretty organic. So much so you may not even notice right away until a bus or a large truck sneaks up on you and you'll go, hold on. Did those exist here before? Did Night City have that many taxis? It just makes Night City traffic feel more like that of a proper city. Anyway, that was the first feature. The second one is probably what most will be using this mod for, and that is the modded car replacement feature. Are you tired of being the only GTR in Night City? Sick of your vanilla-centric friends saying it's immersion breaking to be the sole Lamborghini or Ferrari cruising the streets? Fear not, because Nova Traffic supports the swapping of most modded cars into regular traffic. And when I say most modded cars, I mean basically almost every non-vanilla modded car that is a standalone mod rather than a replacement mod. As far as I know, the mod supports well over 90 modded vehicles at the moment, with an easy way for authors to build support for Nova Traffic into their future modded vehicles. Now some of you might say, hold on Crush, you're a self-proclaimed Vanilla Plus only player and you're covering a mod focused on modded vehicles. Yeah, I know. If you followed me for a while, you'll know that I'm not really big on modded vehicles, flying cars and stuff like that. Other than, the couple that I use in my showcases. But still, you gotta admit, what Nova Traffic does is pretty darn cool. I'll just be rolling whatever clips I have in the background, by the way. I won't be doing my usual comparison bit for this video, because there really isn't anything technical to compare here. Anyway, the modded vehicle replacement feature is done in exactly the same manner as the buses and trucks that I talked about earlier, where the swaps occur outside of the player's view and at random, so everything feels a little bit more organic rather than just kinda appearing out of nowhere. Now, of course, I do need to point out again that this is more of an early preview of the Nova City feature rather than a full release version of a standalone mod. Nova Traffic does what it says on the box, so to speak, but it is a work in progress and it has a couple of quirks. Namely, there isn't a way to control the exact number of swaps that occur or which modded car is chosen to be swapped in. The mod basically swaps a random handful of vehicles in the area at a fixed time interval, and as such, there will be instances where you'll see identical copies of modded vehicles rolling around. Now this can somewhat be alleviated by having more modded cars installed, and you can control the swap timers to an extent, but you'll definitely encounter dupes cruising around the city from time to time. Some might feel this is immersion breaking, but honestly, just the novelty of seeing a bunch of real-world cars in traffic is good enough in my opinion. I also hear they are working on a much better version of this feature for when Nova City releases, so that's something to look forward to. Another issue that some experience is a performance and resource issue. On some systems, particularly those with smaller amounts of VRAM and system RAM, spawning too many modded vehicles can cause stutters and occasional crashes. Now, it doesn't happen to everyone, but I know it does happen, so that's something to keep in mind. And the reason it happens is because modded cars don't usually come with varying degrees of LOD, or levels of detail, like vanilla cars do. These modded cars are intended to be used by the player and thus designed to look as good and as high detail as possible. So every spawned modded car will render at max resolution and max LOD regardless of the distance from the player, which can then cost a decent amount of VRAM if too many of these modded cars are spawning too frequently. But of course, this can be alleviated in a couple of ways by setting longer swap timers and reducing the swap target pool in the mod setting menu, but it will not solve the problem entirely if you are on a resource-starved system to begin with. So some trial and error is required here. And that's basically what Nova Traffic is and what it does. Now let's talk about installation and some usage notes. So installing the mod is a pretty standard affair. You have your mod manager installation option here, and you can do it manually as well if that's what you want. And as always, if you're new to modding, I'll link my basic modding guide in the description of this video. Now at time of recording, there are two main file options, the main version and the experimental version. I personally find that the main version is a little bit more stable, it's more reliable, less minor bugs and such, so that's the one I recommend you install. Though there really is no harm trying the experimental one, just remember to only install one or the other, not both. So if the vanilla swap feature is the one that you are after, that one only deals with assets that are already in the game. So if you want to keep things strictly vanilla, at this point, you are good to go. For those who want to use the modded car feature, however, this requires a little more setup. First off, obviously this requires you to have some modded cars installed for the mod to work. The more the merrier. I would recommend having at least 10 to 20 modded cars installed or more, because the number of modded cars that you have directly affects the variety that you will see on the streets. Less cars means less variation and more dupes. This is just my recommendation though. You can ultimately pick and choose whatever cars you'd like to use and then use the mod however you want. Next, we need to take note of the optional file called the community list. This file is kind of a central database of modded vehicles that the mod supports. Any vehicle listed in this file is already supported by the mod, provided you have that vehicle installed. It currently already supports a decent number of cars, so if you don't want to bother with adding your own list of cars, just open the community list file in Notepad and download any of the cars on the list from Nexus Mods. And once you install these cars, the mod will just start spawning them. Now, for those who want to create your own custom car list, or have modded cars that are not already included in the community list, you will need to create your own JSON file and add your car to it. The Nova Traffic download comes with an example file for you to work with. You paste the spawn code of the vehicle here, and this code will always be listed in the description of any modded car that you download. You want to copy this portion of the code specifically and paste it here. The min and max values are the spawn timers, and I don't recommend changing them for now. You can mess with them later on when you have familiarized yourself with the mod. Now just save the changes, name the file whatever you want, but preferably the name of the car, and paste the file into either the custom folder found here or the community folder found here. So the difference between these two folders is that the cars that are added to the community folder will also be added to the native UI settings menu in-game, which then allows you to change the swap timers while in-game. Cars that are added to the custom folder instead will not be reflected in native settings UI, so you'll need to manually edit the JSON file to change the swap timers. Whatever the case, again, paste your JSON file into only one of the folders, not both. And you'll be doing this for every car that you want the mod to support that isn't already included in the community list, and then you are good to go. Now, it is worth noting that you can actually add multiple cars into one single JSON file for a single list of cars, like so. But doing it individually is what is instructed by the mod's description, and honestly, both ways work well, and the individual files could be a little bit easier to manage in the long run if you want to add or remove cars. And for those who want to fully control and customize exactly which modded cars Nova Traffic spawns, simply don't install the community list and just manually add your cars into the custom or community folder. If you don't install the community list, the mod will only spawn cars that you have manually added into those folders. So this way you can cherry pick the cars you want to see in traffic and the cars you want to keep for yourself. Alright, that was installation. Let's quickly go over the in-game menu. Here we have the list of swap targets. These are vanilla vehicles the mod will attempt to swap out, and disabling some of them is one of the ways to decrease the total number of swapped vehicles that you see. Next, we have the swap timers for the vanilla vehicle swaps. These are the buses and trucks and stuff. I don't recommend messing with these timers. Moving on, we have the swap toggles, and the global toggle should always be enabled, obviously, unless you want to turn the mod off completely. The vanilla toggle enables or disables the vanilla swap feature, and the modded toggle enables or disables the modded swap feature. Now, the descriptions for these toggles can be a little confusing. I know I was a little bit confused when I first read it, but just remember that vanilla turns vanilla on and off, modded turns modded on and off. And finally, the swap timer toggle will enable sliders for you to change the swap timers of modded vehicles, similar to the sliders for the vanilla buses and trucks and stuff that is above. The minimum timer should always be lower than the maximum timer, of course, and figuring out the appropriate timers is entirely trial and error. Shorter timers theoretically makes the vehicle spawn more often, and longer timers makes it spawn less often, though this is not an absolute rule. Otherwise, almost every toggle or slider that you change in this menu will require you to reload all mods via the CET window for it to take effect, and some of them may even require you to reload a save or relaunch the game entirely. And as many long-time mod users know, reloading all mods in CET always has a chance of crashing your game depending on the mods you have installed. So, to be on the safe side, I recommend quick saving before changing any of these settings in case reloading CET crashes your game. Alright folks, that's it for this mod showcase. This was an extremely interesting mod to test out over the past week, and if anything, it just makes me want Nova City to drop ASAP. No pressure guys, just saying. Anyway, as always, links are in the description. Always read the description pages of the mods that you download for more information and usage instructions. What I go through in this video is only accurate at time of recording and could change. And of course, endorse the mod if you like it, crush that like button, smash the sub button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care folks.